Tonight, the U.S. government imposed immediate visa restrictions on all individuals responsible for undermining democracy in Ghana ahead of December's make-or-break elections. We have the latest on the new U.S. policy announced by the U.S. Secretary of State. And Top Story is always brought to you by Telecel Connecting Energies, holy insecticide spray and coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. In the last few hours, the United States of America has announced immediate visa restrictions on all individuals responsible for undermining democracy in Ghana ahead of December's make-or-break elections. The policy was announced by the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, on the State Department website and is already generating interest across the political divide. My colleague Mfa Power is with me in the studio to go through the specifics of what we are learning tonight. Is there any background to this?
Well, so the United States says it is committed to supporting and advancing democracy in Ghana and around the world. And the Department of State is announcing a new visa restriction policy today that will restrict U.S. visas for any individual responsible for undermining democracy in Ghana. The policy, we are told, will take effect in advance of Ghana's presidential and parliamentary elections scheduled to take place December 7, 2024.
So you're not waiting for the election. This is taking effect now in advance of the elections itself.
Exactly.
But the key question listening to this, many will be asking, does it affect me, for example? Who is this targeted at? Is it all Ghanaians applying for visas to travel to the U.S.?
So according to that statement put out by Antony Blinken, this visa restriction policy would apply only to specific individuals who undermine democracy and is not directed at the Ghanaian people nor the government of Ghana. Ghana has achieved 3 decades of democratic elections, peaceful transfer of power between parties, a record to be proud of and a model to cherish. The United States' readiness to impose visa restrictions if circumstances warrant is an example of our support for the aspirations of all Ghanaians for a peaceful, transparent and credible electoral process that reflects the will of the people. So it's not everybody, it's not the government of Ghana, but any individual that seeks to undermine the democracy of Ghana, this policy affects.
And we'll be hearing from the political parties pretty shortly because, as you know, and also hearing from the Media Foundation for West Africa, they have been tracking over the last few elections the use of intemperate language that tend to undermine democracy because of its potential to fuel chaos. And we need to place this in the context of what we've seen, the violence we've seen over the weekend, MFR Powell, where we've seen that in Agona West, one person has been shot, is currently in critical condition already. We've seen the political undertones of the violence in Boku, for example. So you cannot detach this coming today, because this was issued today.
Yes. On
the back of all that we've witnessed already.
That we've seen already. And it talks about the fact that it's not just the lead up, they will follow up as well, and then during the election as well. And then after the election, anybody that seeks to undermine it will be affected.
And what authorities are the U.S. implementing this visa restriction?
They are talking about pursuant to Section 212A 3C of the Immigration and Nationality Act, and allows the Department of State to implement visa restrictions for individuals believed to be responsible for or complicit in undermining democracy in Ghana, including through the manipulation or rigging of the electoral process, the use of violence to intimidate, coerce, or prevent people from exercising their rights to freedoms of association and peaceful assembly, the use of measures designed to intimidate, coerce, or prevent political party representatives, voters, or members of civil society, or the media from voicing or disseminating their views or engaging in any other activity designed to improperly influence the conduct or outcome of an election.
This is sweeping, huh?
Exactly. And it affects everybody at least. And it talks about certain family members of such persons may also be subject to these restrictions. So not just that individual that is undermining the democracy of this country or preventing the media or preventing voters and preventing civil society from executing their work. Their family members also will be affected.
And this is taking effect in advance of the elections.
Exactly.
And if you're just joining us, a major announcement by the United States of America under the hand of the Secretary of State himself, Anthony Blinken, issued today, imposing visa restrictions on all individuals, undermining Ghana's democracy. And they're just telling us, as Amefa has been explaining, that it does not only include the individuals found to have done this.
Exactly. Certain members of their family will also be subjected to this particular restriction.
And in terms of the scope, it's pretty wide. It's not just use of intemperate language. It's everything from use of violence to intimidate, coerce, prevent people from exercising their rights, to freedom of association and peaceful assembly, the use of measures designed to intimidate, coerce, and prevent political party representatives, voters, or members of civil society, or the media from voicing or disseminating their views, even include the activities of civil society.
Exactly. And that's what it tells you. So at least if you are also engaging in any other activity designed to improperly influence the conduct or the outcome of that election, and also if you intend to rig, manipulation or rigging of the electoral process, and the use of violence to intimidate, as you've been talking about. So very widespread, very wide scope in terms of Section 212A 3C of the Immigration and Nationality Act that allows them to implement this. They maintain that it is not targeted at the government of Ghana or the people of Ghana, but individuals who seek to undermine the democracy of this country in the lead up to the election, during the election, and after the election.
Thank you very much. We're getting some reaction to this tonight. I want to bring in Suleiman Abraham, Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. The media is mentioned there, and I know they've been doing the monitoring of the use of intemperate language. He joins us on the line. Also joining me, Samuel Kudeta Blakwa, who you know has been a key voice on the NDC side in Parliament as far as foreign affairs is concerned. He's an MP for North Tongue. He's currently the chair of the Government Assurances Committee in the House. Also joins me right now. We'll be speaking to the MPP also. The Peace Council is also weighing in on what has happened tonight. This announcement, a major one by the U.S. State Department. We'll also be hearing from the Center for Democratic Development on this particular development too. But Suleiman Abraham, give me your reaction to this.
Well, Evans, I think this is a very, very welcome development. And this is so because there are a lot of people who think that they can act anyhow, behave anyhow, because either they or they will influence, and in the event they don't get what they want to achieve and the nation is thrown into turbulence or chaos, they can quickly have a safe haven either in the U.S. or other Western countries. And so this is a very, very significant development, should send a clear warning to persons who think that, oh, I already have a U.S. visa or I have a house in the U.S. Should anything happen, I can quickly fly my children and my family away, to be aware that things would not remain the same. I would rather wish that other countries, other Western countries, would take the same step. And this is also important for them because certainly through our partnerships and cooperations, they spend quite a lot of resources in ensuring that, our democracy remains stable and the people of our country, continue to have the peace that is necessary for development and for their well-being. And so if you are investing that much in terms of partnerships and cooperation, why would you want to see one person, throw or a few people throw the state into anarchy? And certainly, like you said, we've been witnessing people saying all manner of things, people threatening. Only this morning, I heard somebody say, "Look, if this and this happens, if you see somebody on a motorbike and you think they are suspicious, you can and they start to behave in a way that is suspicious, you can do whatever that you want, threatening to basically banish somebody from a particular region of this country." And the person speaks as if he is not even the president of Ghana. It's as if he owns Ghana. And I believe these are the kinds of people who think that, look, I will do whatever I want. If things go haywire, I'll run away from this country. And so, like I said, it would be great if other Western countries that would often serve as potential safe haven for such people would take a similar step and say, look, if there's chaos, we will take note of you, and there's no way we're going to allow you into our country. And so this is a very, very positive development in my view.
And however, a lot of the determination appears pretty subjective, but the U.S. must make a decision. For example, the use of measures designed to intimidate, coerce, prevent political party representatives, voters, or members of civil society or the media from voicing or disseminating their views. That needs to be determined. And that is subject to a bit of subjectivity there, does it not? I mean, how do you even go about determining that somebody has used some measure to intimidate a civil society organization from voicing their or disseminating their views?
No, Evans, I think that if you look around the world in terms of free speech, the U.S. perhaps has one of the very highest standards in terms of what is allowed, political rhetoric and all of that. And therefore, I don't think it is going to be, because somebody said just something and there is chaos, they are going to say, okay, you are going to be a victim of this particular policy. I think the U.S., as I said, has a very high threshold when it comes to free speech, liberties, the First Amendment guarantees, all that. And again, even if it is going to be subjective, it is U.S. and U.S. belong to the American people, and they would have the option to decide what they think is right, a decision to make or otherwise. In any case, if they feel you will be a threat, because if you did ABC in your country as a result of which we strongly believe contributed to a certain, kind of condition that we don't want to have in the U.S., why would they have you there? So it's just like applying for our regular visas to the U.S. When you go there, the consular officer interviews you. Basically, it is at his or her discretion in deciding whether to grant you the visa or not to grant you the visa. And you cannot blame them. It is their country. If you love, you may choose to stay in your country or visit another country. And so in this case, it is their decision to make. And as I said, I don't think that they are going to be basing it on any flimsy things, because the U.S. itself has a very high bar in terms of, political experience. And therefore, it's not just because, you were so hard in defending your political position and then there is violence and then they blame you as the one. But certainly, as I said, there are certain things that are a no. But we are in a country where today people feel the more they are vile, the more they spew a lot of acidic language, caustic language, that makes them so popular in their political parties. So if you listen to some of the radios, and there are people we continue to name, and when you name them, they even use that as their claim to fame. That, for the last 3 consecutive reports, Media Foundation has put me out there as somebody who is abusive. But we don't care. We continue to defend our party and so on and so forth. I think it is to such people that this warning must go to.
Will you be sharing the findings with the U.S. Embassy now that you know they will be sanctioning people?
Well, our reports are public. They are out there, and I'm sure it is up to them to decide where they want to look for, to get the information that they need to help them make decisions. Our reports are public. It's online on our website. We issue them, as and when we put out a report. And just as they do this regular human rights reports where they pick, information from multiple sources, I wouldn't be surprised that they certainly will be interested in the kind of reports that we are putting out there. And so, it will be up to them. I believe that certainly what we are doing will be of interest to them in terms of the language monitoring that they are doing.
Thank you very much, Suleiman Ibrahima. Is on with me right now. Also joining me right now is Dr. Kojo Asante, is the Director of Policy and Engagement with the CDD. Joins me now. Mr. Kojo Asante, thank you very much for staying on with me. What's your reaction first and foremost to the announcement by Anthony Blinken?
Good evening, Evans. Good evening to the panel. Good evening to all listeners of Joy. This is a most welcome development. This is a development which will put every actor in our democratic space on their toes. Let's remember that every sovereign nation has the right to determine who enters their country, who they grant visas to. And so this is a tool that has been found to work elsewhere. Those who followed the Nigerian elections last year, this tool by the Americans did help. Of the governance watchers, analysts who have really paid critical attention to this tool that the U.S. deployed say that it did help a great deal. And remember that in the Nigerian case, the Americans continue to monitor even after the elections. And indeed, after the elections, they imposed visa restrictions on a number of people who had fomented trouble, who had used violence, who attempted to subvert the will of the Nigerian people. And the verdict out there is that it has been a very helpful. So, look, this is very significant. It is positive, and we all know that if you look at the traveling pattern of African politicians, including Ghanaian politicians, the U.S. is a very favorable destination, apart from investments, apart from going there on holidays, even medical tourism by a lot of these African politicians. The United States is their preferred destination. So to that extent, the Americans have a very, very persuasive force. And don't forget that the U.S. and other countries have been criticized that often they are not proactive, they do not act swiftly, they wait for violence to erupt, and then they try to impose sanctions when the harm has been caused. So in recent years, they have tended to, serve notice and to be more proactive and to ensure that they are not accused of nothing by and allowing a conflagration to erupt when the house is up in flames. Then they now want to act.
Before they act. And I read on John Mohammed's page that he apparently met and had discussions with 24 members of the diplomatic community. And this meeting was hosted by the U.S. Ambassador, Virginia Palmer. And it provided, quote, an opportunity to present the NDC's concerns about our electoral process, end quote. Is it a coincidence that I'm reading in this State Department policy announcement to place visa restrictions on those who undermine democracy, that one of the things that they will be sanctioning is the undermining of our democracy, including through manipulation or rigging of the electoral process? Is it a coincidence, or is partly because of the concerns that your party may have put before the U.S. government in this meeting?
I think that if we are being fair to the facts, the Americans have had this law for a considerable number of time. And before this meeting that our flag bearer, inshallah, the incoming president of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, held with Ambassador Virginia Palmer and other members of the diplomatic corps, the Americans had used this just next door in Nigeria last year, and indeed followed up with real sanctions, and it did work. So to be fair to the Americans, I don't think that they have been persuaded or pushed by any political party. This is a tool in their toolkit that they deploy, particularly when they are watching an election closely and when they have interest in that country. And as the Secretary of State Blinken said, Ghana and U.S. are long-standing allies. They are mutual interests. Remember that there are lots of U.S. investments here. We are trying to revive the MCC account, and there are many partnerships and bilateral arrangements which ought to be preserved. If this country goes up in flames, it's not only Ghanaians, ordinary citizens who suffer, but U.S. interests will also suffer. And to the extent that there are times that U.S. Western allies have been criticized, that, for example, when African heads of states engage in undemocratic tendencies, when they try to, and actually proceed to alter their constitutions and all of that, institutions, they don't act until there is a coup d'etat, and then they then impose sanctions on the coupists. So this is a preemptive move. They are observing closely, and you see, when notice is served to everybody that you are being watched, and I'm sure that other Western nations and other countries will follow suit in the coming days. This serves us as a clear deterrent. Those who think that they can, set up Ghana in flames, foment trouble here, and then they and their family members will just, leave and go enjoy, a safe haven in the United States of America, which is a preferred destination for a lot of African politicians. This serves as notice that you will not be entertained, you will not be allowed entry, you and your family members. So even if they are reckless politicians, what this does is that their family members, the politically persons close to these politicians, will now have to call them to order, will now have to advise them. Because look, the rhetoric, the incendiary language, the dark maneuverings, is there for everybody to see. And now it's clear that there will be consequences.
Yeah, and as a politician,
sanitize the space.
And as a politician yourself, does a move like this put you in check?
Definitely, because you see, when you get on this list, remember that it's not only the United States that will be watching. When you get on the U.S. list, if you observe what happened, particularly to the Nigerians, there are other countries, because the U.S. will share this information with their partners, and it really can impact on other countries granting you, visas to allow you to escape the mess that you have created. So it's going to certainly put every politician in check, even those who may pretend publicly that they are not worried. I tell you, they will. Image, it does not help, your career, and it has far-reaching consequences, even in terms of international appointments, in terms of international invitations, exposures, whether you would even be entertained. You can become a pariah where nobody will want to have anything to do with you. And what kind of politician will you be? You will be blacklisted, you will be doomed. So this is really, really a good call. It's most welcome. I know some people may try to raise issues about sovereignty and why is Uncle Sam, taking the big stick and trying to position themselves as the policeman of the world when they also have their own democratic challenges, particularly January 6th, which has not been resolved, Trump's role and all of that. But you see, the point has to be made that no matter what you say about this statement, the Americans still reserve the right. Like we in Ghana, we reserve the right on a daily basis. We are denying people visas to Ghana. We have the right to determine who enters our space, and we should grant the Americans that as well. And the Americans are only telling us that now, in this election year, this crucial election, they are going to also be watching the space, and they are going to now look at those who are, fomenting trouble, seeking to undermine democracy, seeking to rig elections, seeking to engage in conflict, in all kinds of arm twisting to subvert the will of the people, that there will be consequences. So I don't think that those who may want to mount the high horse and engage in some Pan-African lectures about how America may be trying to dictate to us will convince people like me. Really,
yeah,
I think we need this. We need this. The timing is excellent, and it will help to really improve our democratic ethos.
Samuel Kudiblaka, thank you very much. And I want to bring in Dr. Kojo Asante now, Director of Policy Engagement and Partnership with the CDD. And Doc, yes, it's the U.S. government that is imposing these visa restrictions. It is your right, but do they have the moral authority? This is a country that we saw plunge itself into post-election violence in the United States of America, now preaching to us why there is the need now to maintain our own internal security before, during, and after the elections. In fact, now who the authorities in the U.S. accuse of fomenting and facilitating the chaos and the post-election violence is actually a presidential candidate with a real chance of winning the elections and returning to the White House. I may have lost Dr. Santa there. Hello, Doc. Okay, I'll bring in right now Evans Demarco, is the Director of Research and Elections with the MPP. Hello, hello, Evans.
Hello, Evans.
Great to have you, Mr. Demarco. I've just heard from Samuel Kudiblaka. What's the take from the MPP on this?
Well, thank you very much for having me, and good evening to your listeners. I think for us as New Patriotic Party, this is a good call. And for me, it must not really, it shouldn't take the USA to let people in this industry behave responsibly. But it's a good call. You are aware that the presidential candidate of the party, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, has indicated his preparedness to sign a peace pact before, during, and after the general election. I think that for us as New Patriotic Party, you will never be caught in this web. We've always preached to our people to behave responsibly, conduct themselves in a manner that is in line with our constitution, in line with the rules of the game, i.e. the CIs that are supposed to be used for the conduct.
And in that same spirit, Evans, in that
You've
same
seen this. You've seen this in the conduct of our presidential candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
in that same spirit, we've seen the reports from Agona West where there have been some clashes that has led to one person fighting for his life as we speak. How is the party handling that?
You need to find out from the Ghana Police Service what their investigation so far indicates. It will be difficult for you to sit here and draw conclusions. So for me, I'll rather let the Ghana Police Service conduct the necessary investigation to ensure that whoever is part of this criminal act is arrested and brought to book. That would be my take on that.
Thank you very much, Nemako. And that's is Evans Nemako. He is the Director of Research and Elections with the MPP. Earlier, I lost Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, Director of Policy, Engagements and Partnership. Doc, can you hear me?
Hear you.
Great to have you. I was asking you earlier. Does the U.S. have the moral authority to be imposing this restriction on us? Of course, it's their right to do so. But considering that post the 2020 elections, they were plunging to post-election violence, the man who they accuse of fomenting the violence is on the ballot now, and no chance of becoming the next president of the United States. Do they have the moral authority?
Well, Evans, I mean, the good thing that has happened is that since that generous incident and since he lost the election, the American system has, plunged into action, and there has been various levels of accountability that he has been, had to face. And that's what a democratic system is supposed to, do. And, sometimes we don't even get that here. So, yes, we can look at the failings of, of the U.S., but at least we have to recognize that at least at a certain level, we are able to see how those democratic systems also fight back when they are being undermined, and we have to recognize that. So we have to take, for me, the positives that it offers, and America is still a very important international player, and in the context of Ghana, where our political elites, a lot of them have these opportunities, to live there and travel there, some have their monies there, have their families there. There has to be ways in which we can hold them accountable if locally they are influence, is overwhelms us, and we are not able to hold them accountable locally when we are coming to elections.
But you
I
think it
think
will make much of a difference considering that this is just the U.S., right? They can go to Europe. They can go anywhere else that they want. They have a lot of money to do so.
Well, I think that we have seen that, and I think this is not the first time we have seen this tool used by the U.S. But in the past, I think either in 2016 or 2020, other states also came in. For example, in Europe and so on and so forth. So let's see what happens. But I think that is a first step. That is still, for me, a big stick that the U.S. have put down, and it's something that should be welcome. At the end, we have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to make sure we are enforcing our laws and to be vigilant. I think that's the only way we are going to promote a peaceful environment in this place. But when we have to put all the measures in place to restrain people from causing harm. The elections are supposed to be peaceful. We have to allow the will of the people to prevail, and that is what this is all meant to promote. And I think we welcome it.
And it has been suggested tonight in the conversation we'll be having that for this to be effective, other Western nations must join and issue the same sort of policy. That then becomes one that blocks out every route out of this country if you set this country ablaze.
Well, hopefully we don't even get to that. But as I said, that this has happened in the past. As I try to recall, either in 2016, where others also issued similar warnings, about visa restrictions and that we're going to be imposed on individuals. And remember, the key word is individuals, because this is personal accountability. Often when these things happen,
and their families,
people
in this
hide
case,
behind party.
In this case, their families also.
Yes, exactly. When they are making these things and causing harm to other people's families and so on, they should also think about the impact on their own families.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Kudjo Asante there with the CDD. We'll hear from the Peace Council pretty shortly. They've been working very, very hard in the back of the violence we've seen in Agona West, but also in Boku with all the political undertones. They've actually been barred from entering Boku already because of the tensions there. This must come to them as music to their ears. George Amo, Executive Secretary of the National Peace Council, is joining us right now. Professor Vladimir Entredanso is also joining me right now. He's the Dean of the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College and also an international relations expert. It is to him I go next. And Prof, to that question though, is the U.S. being the big brother, wielding a stick when they have their own issues with their own democracy that plunge into political violence post the 2020 elections here?
Thank you for having me, Evans. Positive as this may sound, though, I think we need to be very careful about what we accept and what we don't accept. Yes, the U.S. is trying to be the big gendarme where democracies are concerned, but no two democracies are the same. I think what we need is to be able to draw our own contours, the contours of our own democracy. My fear is that if always we would wait for the U.S. to bring the big stick, there will be the possibility that when the election results don't favor them, perhaps they want Entredanso, perhaps they want Baumia, and if it doesn't go their way, then they may want to use other parameters in measuring the government and denying the government the right to rule. For example, what they did in Venezuela, and they have done it in several other places. Of course, they've used the same method one way or the other in Nigeria before, which is welcome. But the point is that how long will they be the ones who determine how democracy should be formulated? I'm very much worried about that.
And you raised that point, and I pulled that question to Kudjo Blackwell earlier, because in this particular directive, you will be sanctioned if the U.S. believe, and I'm using the word quoted in Section 212A3C of the Immigration and Nationality Act, if they believe that you've acted in that undermines the democracy in Ghana, including manipulation or rigging of the electoral process? I mean, how do you objectively determine that an electoral process has been rigged?
That is my worry, because that is what exactly they did to Venezuela. And Venezuela was rather thrown into chaos because of the U.S. interference. And up till now, there is no peace in Venezuela. The people have chosen their own person. No matter how bad it was, they would have been gradually. We in Ghana had this problem since '92. And I'm saying, let us find a way of crystallizing our democracy through the contours we give to democracy, by people accepting what to do and what not to do in elections, and not wait for America to do for us to do their bidding for them.
Stay with me briefly. I want to bring in the Peace Council now. George Amo, Executive Secretary of the National Peace Council, joins us now. How is the Peace Council responding to this directive by the U.S.?
Evans, thank you very much. And greetings to all those who are listening to. I think that this is welcome news because it would help us strengthen the peace messages we want to we are giving Ghanaians. But the question is, how did we get here? I mean, why should that happen? I mean, if we are a country that is, law-abiding, going about our elections in a peaceful, manner, why should we have such a directive? I think it's because probably we haven't done well in terms of putting the right signals, out there. I mean, the U.S. I'm not sure would issue this statement in a vacuum. That there is reasons why they are taking such an action. So I think that is why I would want to draw the attention of our politicians, like other discussants have said. We have to put our house in order. We don't have to allow external partners, however good intentions they are, to give directives like what has happened. But it is very welcome. It will help check excesses here in our country, because the U.S. has great influence across the world. So their directive, I can assure everybody, is not only making reference to U.S. as a destination, but other places. Others will take you from what the U.S. has said.
And Dr. Vladimir Chudan, so there's a point there about this would not have been issued in a vacuum. Is it possible, knowing what you understand of international relations, that the U.S. may have gathered intelligence that may point to individuals, either in concert with others, acting to undermine our democracy, and that is why the U.S. government has taken this preemptive step to sort of serve that warning that we are watching and you will be picked up, and yourself and your family will be subject to this restriction?
Of course, they must have picked intelligence, and we ourselves in Ghana know that the war drums have been beating for quite so long a time. Almost towards every elections, we have this problem of war drums being beaten. And I'm saying that no matter what the situation, the crystallization of our democracy, the future of our democracy will not be always on the back of American high stick. And again, who says that those who want to foment trouble will always want to go to America? The trouble can come anyway. So what we did is that we should be very wary of such situations. People may now be wanting to show to the Americans that X is doing this, Y is doing this. And I'm saying, among the political parties, they have their choices. They have those they believe would sing their praise or would tie their apron strings to theirs. And therefore, if it doesn't go their way, the possibility of having a Venezuela in Ghana is always there. And that is my worry. My biggest worry is the fact that they know who their choice would be. And if it doesn't go well, they would then try to find some culprits and then denounce the elections. I mean, not accept the results of the elections and begin to foment trouble for Ghana. So my take on this is that, welcome though as it may be, we should find a way of making sure that these things don't become part of our electoral processes, that our democracy can be crystallized without somebody determining democracy in Ghana.
You make the point there. It comes down to our own internal checks and balances and measures to prevent the violences and all. And Mr. George, I'll move finally to you. What do you make of that concern as expressed there by Dr. Vladimir Chudanso on this particular subject, that there's open, we're a sovereign country, but there's also, I mean, as they say, the U.S., they haven't got permanent friends, they have permanent interests. Yes, they say on the face of this that this is to prevent the undermining of our democracy, that they may have other interests other beyond that then they use this to enforce it.
I think they are just enforcing a law that I think they have clearly stated in the statement. So I'm not sure it's because of Ghana's election that they are doing something like this. So, however it is, as a country, how do we, gain? Let me use the word gain carefully from such a statement. It may not be well intentioned, but I'm confident that it will help reduce. The propensity, to use violence as a choice in addressing a dispute that one is not happy about. So, however uncomfortable it is for now, until probably they prove to us they have other intentions, let us accept the directive as it has been released and see what is it that we can do as a people to prevent such, issuance of such a directive in the future. Because I am sure some intelligence have been picked, some science has been received, and for that matter, they are issuing this directive. So let us be proactive, prevent any untoward occurrence that will disturb our peace. After all, if we are able to abide by the statement and we ensure we don't go the path of violence, I mean, the interest is ours. It is Ghanaians who are benefiting. It's our democracy that is growing. So I would wish that we look at it from that angle. After all, we don't need somebody to tell us not to take the path of violence. So if somebody has come and told us, let us see it as having come from, a well-intentioned friend, and do all that we can to preserve the peace and democracy that we are enjoying. We should remember that the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act is still in force. And for that matter, we should be careful the way we either sponsor violence, we participate in it, or we encourage others, to participate in acts of violence. It wouldn't yield anything to us. We have children to give a country that is peaceful, too, when we are no more around. So all these things, I think they are good signs. Let us take them and ensure we keep our country safe.
Thank you very much, George Amo, Executive Secretary of the National Peace Council. We had Professor Vladimir Chudanso, Dean, Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College. What do you make of the announcement by the U.S. Secretary of State? And as you know, this announcement had been made with just 40 days to the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections. It's been called a make or break one. But tonight, if the U.S. Determines that your actions undermine Ghana's democracy, they have imposed an immediate visa restriction that will not only affect you, the individual, but your family members as well. And this is on a wide range of issues that they will be evaluating over the period, include actions that manipulate or rig the electoral process, the use of violence to intimidate, coerce, or prevent people from exercising their rights to freedom of association and peaceful assembly, the use of measures designed to intimidate, coerce, or prevent political party representatives, voters, or members of civil society or the media from voicing or disseminating their views or engaging in any other activity designed to improperly influence the conduct or outcome of the elections if the U.S. determines that you are guilty of any of these, they will slap you with a sanction, which is the visa restriction on yourself and your family. And this is what the U.S. government has announced today. And it does not affect all applicants, Ghanaians applying to go to the U.S. legitimately, only affect individuals who are guilty of things I've just listed here. I want to hear from you on Newsnight tonight on the 055 997